Okay, everybody, we want to welcome you out to the Beehive Biker Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about new bikers and what bikes we suggest. We reached out to the community on Facebook and Instagram and also our new Discord. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and head on over to our Instagram page. It'll be in the link in the bio. So we had a couple people that we invited to record with us, and we're going to play their clips, and then we're going to talk about it. But first, one section that we're going to start with is our news section. So we're going to start with that. Okay, today we are talking about a new motorcycle company in America. And one thing with this section I wanted to do is that we're going to just cover new things in motorcycles. Anywhere in the world, any topic, any group, but it's got to be about motorcycles.
Right on.
Okay, so I'm going to show Zach here on our TV screen what we're looking at, and then I'm also going to edit this in later, okay? So this company is called Horwin Motorcycles, and one of their new motorcycles is called the Cementi X, okay? So when I see this motorcycle, the first couple things I think of are like Tron Legacy.
I was going to say the same thing.
And for those of you who have ever seen it, it's an older Japanese animated show called Akira. And they ride these kind of motorcycles like this. So definitely interesting. Full disclosure, it's an electric motorcycle.
Yeah.
So not really my cup of tea. Not super against electrical vehicles. More just, I think that it has to be fitting your lifestyle.
Definitely.
That's how I feel like electrical vehicles in general. Like, I don't know. If it works for you and it saves you money and you enjoy that vehicle, then all for you. But for me, it's a combustion engine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So anyway, some specs on this motorcycle is a top speed of 125 miles an hour. Takes, if I read the specs right, it's a 30-minute charge.
Yeah.
And the advertised range is between 165 and 186 miles. See, now what's interesting to me about these electric motorcycles that I mean, it makes sense now knowing, but before it kind of, when I saw it, it didn't make sense to me. But the highway is the smaller number.
Oh, really?
Because like in cars, like, oh, you get better gas mileage when you're on the highway.
Right.
But you're putting more stress on the battery at highway speeds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
At least that's how I'm understanding it. So kind of interesting. It boasts 99 horsepower. So I'd really like to see what a 0 to 60 is, because I know that a lot of electric vehicles, because it's kind of a direct drive motor, they're really fast. So I'd really like to see that. And then the video I watched where kind of the company was showcasing its prototype is that they were saying that they would have 1 seating and 2 seating options. So that would be kind of interesting. I do want to quickly look up for Zach here, because he's probably never seen Akira before. And granted, I've never watched it all the way myself. I just seen clips.
Oh, that totally is.
But it's like the same exact thing, but red.
Yeah. No kidding. They just brought it to life.
Yeah. So when I look at this Horwin motorcycle, I'm like, somebody's watched Akira, and that some engineer that works for Horwin has watched Akira, is like, I got to make that a reality.
They brought the anime to life.
Exactly. So kind of interesting. I'd like to see more of it when it's kind of more produced. Right now it's all prototypes, and
yeah, they're in the testing phase of everything.
Yeah, I believe from what I read that they do offer some scooters, but I mean, that's a lot easier, I'd feel like, to, I mean, we've been doing electric scooters for who knows how long.
Yeah, for a while.
But to have a full-fledged motorcycle that can handle that kind of speed, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
This is honestly the first time I've ever heard of this company in existence.
Oh yeah,
so.
no, I wouldn't have found it if I wasn't looking specifically for this segment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's yeah.
Yeah, they really look like something that just came out of Tron.
Well, and then did you see this one? This is kind of their more sport bike like one. But to me, when I see this one, have you ever seen those travel suitcases that you can use as a scooter? It kind of looks like that to me, but just a lot bigger. The other thing, it has 2 screens, one 10.9-inch lower screen, and then it's almost like I think it's like a hollow projected upper screen, which is like all your dials and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting.
This is for your like dash display and everything.
Yeah. So that's our motorcycle news today. Another thing I'd like to do at the beginning of each episode, other than this, is to announce different events happening nearby. But currently, as we're getting prepared, it's kind of useless to announce any events coming up because these episodes will all premiere roughly in the same 2 weeks. So in the future, when we're a little ahead of the ball, we'll be able to switch over, make sure we're keeping people posted on updates. So, all right. We have, like I said, a couple sound bites that we're going to listen to. And then we're going to discuss and see if we can figure out what people should be doing to pick what motorcycle they're getting, right?
Yeah, first off, let's give a shout out to all these guys out in the Discord and part of the community that, called in and, gave us their input. And this is huge and this is great. And we appreciate it. So
100%. Yeah, this is exactly what we're looking for in doing this podcast. Like, there's no point in doing it if people aren't going to have fun with us.
Totally.
Like, we have fun, but the whole point of doing it is to share with the community.
Yeah,
So
definitely involve everybody else too.
Yeah, we have 4 people from the Discord. Their Discord users are Slick Gnarly, Sandy Randy, Gandalf, the Gunmetal Gray, and Walter Corvo. And he actually was off Facebook. But really cool that they were able to make some time for us. And so we're going to share their bites. I think first off, we're going to go with Jonathan's soundbite, and we'll see what he has to say.
Jonathan. I am originally born and raised in Wyoming, but I live in Centerville now. I've been riding bikes since college, so about 15 years at this point. I started on an old 1981 Honda CB 900 custom, and I went through several Japanese bikes. Recently switched to American-made. I am now on a Indian Springfield Dark Horse. And as far as what I would recommend for beginner bikes, I personally don't think it matters a whole lot whether like the style of bike you get. I think if you're new and you're starting on a bullet bike, you're setting yourself up for a disservice of how a lot of bikes will handle themselves. So I usually recommend cruisers like to new riders. I don't think you have to stay on a cruiser by any means, but I think you're going to have fewer factors going against you on a cruiser to where you can at least get a hang of the bike and those kind of new mistakes of like never squeeze your front brake when your wheels turned or when your front tire is turned or just simple stuff like that. I think the cruisers are going to be much more forgiving and are going to allow riders to get away with more mistakes than some of these higher up, these taller bikes or bikes with a lot more torque and less weight to them, that sort of stuff.
What do you think?
No, yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, for me, when I first started, I kind of jumped straight to the big game. I was like, I'm a big guy, and I just felt like everything else that I was testing was so small, and it made me look goofy. But I mean, it all really depends on your comfort level. Obviously, if you're a beginner and you're going to be your first bike, I would, experiment. Don't just jump into something first. get out there and get a feel for how your body reacts to the machine. Yeah, I mean, it all really just depends on you and your preferences, and I mean your comfort level and what you're looking at doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that when it comes to me and giving people advice on motorcycles, because a lot of people see what I do and they're like, oh, okay, he knows somewhat of what he's talking about. I wouldn't say I know all, of course, but it's kind of a heavy responsibility when somebody expects you to give an answer on how to be safe and what bikes are good for learners and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm similar to Jonathan. A lot of times I'd be like, hey, look, cruisers are a lot easier to handle. They have a lower center of balance. Like, sport bikes are a lot higher, so it's easier to tip them over if you're not paying attention. But when it comes to my opinion overall, it's been swayed from certain people I've met in the motorcycle community, because I feel like my old view was that, yeah, you had to start on the smaller stuff. And not that I still don't think that's good advice. It's just that it depends on your personality.
Yeah.
If you're a confident person and you're honest with yourself on your abilities, I think that if you respect the machine and you don't go ham, then maybe you can start with something larger.
Yeah.
You know, like our friend Gary, his first street bike was his CVO. Granted, it was an older CVO, so it's not like the money thing, but he was telling me when he bought it that he sat on, he's like, oh no, I've made a mistake. Because, yeah, he sits on this 800-pound motorcycle and is just, can I handle this?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you should have a healthy dose of caution.
Yeah.
Now, when there's a lot of new riders that buy their dream bike and they don't think about training and learning to be a good rider, they'll just get themselves killed.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. But
yeah, I feel like one of the biggest things is confidence in yourself. If you're confident in you and your riding style, I mean, a lot of things are going to go your way.
Yeah. Right on. So let's go ahead and move on to our next commenter. This one's Walter. Walter teaches classes down in southern Utah, so he had some pretty good advice, and we'll play that now.
Walter Provo here. Basically live in southern Utah. I have for years, a couple of decades. Been in Utah 3 or 4 decades. Calling Hurricane, Utah, my home. How long have I been riding? 52 years. I know that exactly because I actually calculated it the other day. My very first motorcycle I bought brand new in Los Gatos, California at the Honda dealer. It was a Honda 50 Sport, and couldn't wait to take the muffler off it. My dad got mad at me because someone stole the muffler I hid under the rock. My current bike is a Harley Davidson Ultra Classic. Touring is my thing ever since I saw Easy Rider, and then came Bronson. I've had a lot of bikes in between. One of my absolute favorite bikes was my Norton Commandos. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of motorcycle that I'd recommend for a new rider. And that's an awesome question, and I get asked that a lot being a Motorcycle Safety Foundation rider coach. It's really going to depend on the style of riding that you like and what you're comfortable with. Most of the students that graduate from our class have a pretty good idea of where they're headed with motorcycling, at least in the beginning. You're going to change over the years if you're a new rider, especially a younger rider. I do think that having anti-lock brakes / ABS, fuel injection are probably really good things to have on your motorcycle, and make sure that you get those when you buy a new bike. And like I said, it depends on the kind of riding you like, and how comfortable you are on a motorcycle and how big of a motorcycle you should get. And if you take the motorcycle safety class, you're going to have a pretty darn good idea of what you expect out of a motorcycle, and that should help guide you to what you're going to be purchasing.
Pretty sound advice, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think he kind of echoed a lot of the same points. You know, ride your ride.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard for me sometimes to give advice on new riding and what bikes to get, because like we discussed in our intro episode, I kind of had the dirt bike training as a kid, and then I had a long hiatus of not riding motorcycles at all, and then just picking it up, and I was lucky enough to have somebody that let me ride their stuff. So when people are like, "Oh, well, what class did you take?" I'm like, "I didn't take any class." And how'd you prepare for the tests, or where did you study, or where did you get your license? And I'm like, I just went into the DMV and like took the test and got my permit. But
yeah,
there's not much else to how I did it. But how did you do it? Did you go through any classes, or did you do the same thing as I did?
It all just came down to personal experience and just hopping on the bike and going. For me, I'm just a hands-on learner, and I don't feel like I learn as much from face-to-face contact and somebody telling me what to do. I have to experience that and then put it into motion to really have it set in. So
yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to have a call in on another episode, kind of a recap. Somebody who's been through any sort of program or the typical path to getting a motorcycle. I don't know. I feel like I kind of jumped some things, not in like a reckless way, but just I'm like, why take the class if I already know what they're going to teach me?
right.
I don't know. I was young, 18, probably not. It probably would have been good for me.
No, I mean, yeah, like you were saying though, and just like it was commented just a minute ago, it all really just depends on you. Everything's coming down to you, and you're comfortable. What are you comfortable with, and what are you confident in, and it all really comes down to you.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, I think that there are some generic bikes that you can be like, that's a good starter bike.
Right.
For example, when I talk to new riders, I'm like, if I had to give advice, it'd be an older Shadow, Honda Shadow 750, or like a new one, I guess. They haven't really changed a whole lot. But like you can flat foot it no matter practically what height you are.
Mm-hmm.
They handle great. They're reliable motorcycles. You're not going to like lock up on the interstate.
Yeah.
Granted, they're not really built for interstate travel. I think they're a little too light, but they're a good learning motorcycle. I think they handle really well, and from the ones I've ridden. But what other ones? I mean, a lot of big entry level cruisers. I think the Yamaha, what does Yamaha? The V-Star?
The V-Star.
And then I guess the Rebel as well.
Mm-hmm.
The newer Rebels are really beginner friendly because you have, a 300, a 500, and 1100.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really not filling a larger engine, you can start with a 300.
Yeah.
Upgrade to a 500. And I don't know what the price difference is between them, but they can't be that substantial. And then even the 1100, I'm pretty sure that it offers a automatic version.
Mm-hmm.
Not my cup of tea. I like being
able to shift.
Yeah, it feels like you're connected to the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's something you're worried about, you've never driven anything with a manual transmission, might be a good option. If that's the case, maybe you should go take a class. But
once again, comfortability, or what makes you comfortable.
Yeah. So Our next two, funny enough, have a little bit of a contradiction, but I think that's a good thing. Because you can hear people that are going to listen are going to hear what they need to hear.
Yeah.
So we'll listen to Slick Gnarly first, and then we'll switch over to Randall.
All right. My name's Slick Gnarly, and I'm from Farmington, Utah. I've been riding my whole life. My old man has a picture of me on his Suzuki DR from the 80s when I was an infant. So I couldn't even tell you what the first time I rode. Currently, my very first bike was a 98 Yamaha TTR 225, maybe, dirt bike. That was my very first riding period. Had to be 11 or so. Currently, I'm cruising a 2023 Street Glide Special. Just picked that one up after wrecking my Fat Bob last year. And as far as a first rider, cruiser, anyway, that's my specialty is cruisers, and I'm a diehard Harley guy. So I suggest a 2007 or later Sportster. The reason it's Sportster 1200. The reason for that is 2007 or later is going to be fuel injected, so you don't have to mess with a carburetor or choke or messing with the idle or anything. Great for beginners to not have to sit and warm up their bike before they take off. 1200 because it's going to give you enough top end power to be able to pass and pull past trucks on the freeway, get up to freeway speeds, no issues with that at all. And the reason I highly recommend a Sportster, even if you're trying to get into sport bike riding or something other than a cruiser, is that when you're out on the road doing long rides with a Sportster, there's a Harley dealership in every state. Most states have tons of them. And all those parts are going to be super available for you, and you're not going to be broke down on the side of the road for long.
He brings up some good points.
Yeah.
Have you ever ridden a Sportster?
No, I actually haven't.
I haven't either. So I need to get on one, and try it out, because I think I've sat on a couple of them, but I've never ridden it.
I feel like the closest thing that I've actually rode to it would have been the 48, but
The Sportster 48.
yeah.
So that's the 1200 with larger tires or something. It's just different trim package or something like that.
But it's not to me, it's not the,
The iron.
traditional,
It's not the iron
yeah.
883.
Yeah. It's not the traditional Sportster
Yeah.
1200.
Well, I know a lot of people that was their first bike.
Mm.
So definitely, if you want to be a Harley rider or if you want to be an American motorcycle rider, good option. And if you take the Harley Davidson motorcycle riding class, I think you either use those or they have some, what is it, like the Street 500 or something that they use for those classes.
Mhm.
I think they actually might be transitioning out of either of those. I'm pretty sure they have a export only motorcycle, so you can't buy it here in the US, but you can buy it in like Europe and India, China, that Harley Davidson makes. And I'm pretty sure those are actually manufactured in India.
Gotcha.
Have you heard about those?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they're transitioning to for those classes. I'll have to look into that. But what was the other? He said that Harley Davidsons are everywhere for parts.
Oh, yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about riding a Harley Davidson is there's a community to it. You can go into any Harley dealership, and two things. I think before I had a Harley, I was like, oh, I can't go into a Harley dealer. I don't have a Harley. Like, they're going to judge me.
Yeah.
Go into a Harley dealer, you would be surprised.
Yeah, even if you don't own one, they still consider you family.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I remember going into I think it was my first Harley Davidson dealership in Arkansas, in Rogers, is the Pig Trail, I believe is that one. And looking at the motorcycles, and that was still back when I was kind of a metric only guy. And was like, oh, these are kind of good looking. But I still like my metric bikes. I just wanted Honda Shadow, or the VTX is what I wanted, I think, back then. And but they were super welcoming. And like he says, they have a lot of parts on stock. You can drive any state in the U.S. and have several options. Like, I think here in Utah, we have six
or seven.
Because there's Saddleback in Logan.
Mm-hmm.
There's Golden Spike in Ogden, South Valley, Salt Lake, Summit in
Zions.
Linden. Zions is in St. George. That's all the active ones. I think that there was one in Park City, or was that only a clothes?
It may have actually just been a clothing outlet.
Yeah, I think that one closed. There was one over in what's that town called over on the east corner of Utah? Vernal? Was there one over in Vernal?
I don't know about that one.
I think there was in that area, but it closed. So 6. But that's like average.
I mean, that's 6 in the span of 500 miles, though.
Yeah. And I think California's got twice that many. So pretty much any state you want to visit, if you have an issue and you need parts, you can get them. So that's a really good point. We'll have to have people comment on whether that's a thing in metric. Another thing that I think of when it comes to picking a bike, especially if you already have your license and you're like actually looking to get your bike, is I know a lot of metric dealers that won't let you test drive. And every Harley dealer, it doesn't matter. As long as you have your permit or your license, they're going to let you ride.
Yeah. And
it doesn't matter the size either. Because I think it's unique here in Utah that a lot of like the young power sports, they let you test drive. But from what I've heard in other states, it's not a thing, or it's super restricted.
Yeah.
I do think that even still here, they won't let you ride, because I've gone to one of the young power sports in North Ogden, and because I was trying out some Kawasaki's with my sister-in-law, and they were like, you can't touch anything over 1,000 cc's. And I rolled in on a 1,300 cc motorcycle. So I was like, okay, whatever you say. I mean, granted, that was a cruiser, and the 1 liters they're talking about are sport bikes, like the H2 and like the Ninja 1000 or whatever it's called. So I kind of get that, but you might have better luck going to a Harley dealer depending on what state you're in. All right, so let's listen to our last clip.
Yeah, my name's Randall. I'm from originally California, but moved out here 2 years ago, residing in Eagle Mountain, which is awesome. I've been riding for 8 years, give or take. Had my first bike be a Honda Shadow 600 bobber. It was horrible to ride, but a lot of fun. My current bike is a 98 Dyna convertible. Such a fun bike. Would recommend a Dyna to anybody, but the best beginning bike in my eyes is whatever you feel comfortable on. Of course, if you're fresh off the rip, stay away from 600cc sport bikes. Stay under 400. You want to get on more of a cruiser. Honda Rebel's a great start. Would not recommend a Harley Sportster because of how much torque those bikes have. Those are 9 times out of 10 the first bike I see crash after someone gets it. That's my 2 cents.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wouldn't be the first one to jump on a sport bike either. I mean, there's just a thing about them that's just, I mean, those are like the majority of the things that you see on the news of this new rider is, crashed.
Yeah. I mean,
it can happen to anybody.
Right. But it's, I think in a lot of crashes, when you look at the statistics, that the vast majority are caused by speeding. If you weren't speeding, you wouldn't have had that problem.
Definitely.
So it's definitely a temptation when you have the ability.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know you can hit 130 miles an hour, you're going to be tempted.
Yeah.
Whether or not you do that. Like, you're going to be on the open road on the interstate, and there's going to be all these people going slow. Like, I even saw it today on my way home from work, just big. And it was two different styles of motorcycles that did it on my way home from work. I had a huge Electric Glide Ultra riding right behind me, and then he passed me, and then he caught up to the person that was being slow in front of me and was two-handing it up in the air like, why are you going so slow? And we're all going like 80. Like, okay, dude. And then he goes whipping around, like weaving in and out.
Yeah.
If you're a new rider, don't do that.
No.
If you're an old rider, don't do that.
Definitely. Ride smart.
But and then a sport bike came flying up, just 1 second there, 1 second gone.
And the scary thing about those things is that you can't hear them until they're past you.
Oh, yeah.
They're so quiet, and then all of a sudden it's like you can hear them for a second, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we go back to it so many times is like ride your ride.
Yeah.
And maybe self-reflect a little bit why you want to ride a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Why I ride, that's hard to describe, I feel like, because it's so not just personal, but it's like my relief.
Yeah.
You know, it's the one thing I do for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that if that's why you want to ride, then that's the perfect reason. Now, if you want to ride to just look cool and just fly by people, and when you're going over the speed limit and someone brake checks you and you flip them off and scream at them and this, that, and the other,
It's the wrong reason.
it's the wrong.
Yeah.
You're looking for the wrong things. And there's a lot of people that are like that. And that's what sucks about being a motorcycle rider is the outliers often define the few, or the outliers often define the many.
Mm-hmm.
I just ran into somebody not too long ago. It was like, oh, I can't stand people that ride motorcycles. I'm like, I just told you I ride a motorcycle. Well, not like you. Like, I like you, but
Yeah.
I just hate how they weave in and out of traffic. Yeah, but most people don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how often do you see that? Yeah, you see it, but I bet you 9 times out of 10 it's the same dude if you ride through the same area all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have a guy that I know, and bless his heart, cool guy, but he does wheelies all over the place. And I'm like, dude, you're going to get yourself killed. But I don't know.
Yeah. Once again, I mean, it was said in this, this comment, be comfortable in what you're doing. I don't know how many times we're going to, circle back to it. Be comfortable in what you're doing. Be confident. Do yourself. I mean, you can't control everybody else. Control yourself. Like Jeremy says, ride your ride. The purpose that I ride is probably about the same thing as you. It's just, and I stated this in the first episode, it's wind therapy for me. It's a place that I can go to clear my head and to, bring myself back into basically reality. It's not like I check out during riding, but I mean,
Sometimes tempting.
I mean, I can do that while driving too, but I mean, it's just calming, soothing, place where you can just think.
Yeah. I'm trying to think more specifics when it comes to suggestions. I guess a lot of times when someone's adamant on being a sport bike rider, I loved my Yamaha FZ09. Absolutely loved it. I'd buy another one tomorrow if I had the money. The nice thing about those is rider position is a lot more comfortable. You're not leaning over the handlebars as much. And they come in lots of different sizes.
Yeah.
So if somebody is adamant on riding a sport bike, I always suggest the FZ series or the MT series, very similar. Like I talked about, I'm not positive on like what the difference is because they're like the exact same bike. But it comes in a 300, 700, a 900, and 1,000. So whether you're brand new and you just want to start on a 300, you'll have plenty of power for learning, a 500 for intermediate, 900 or 1,000 for your more advanced riders.
I think one of the biggest things is that the first bike that you buy doesn't have to be your final bike. I mean, if you listen to these people that called in, they've gone through multiple.
Oh, yeah.
They've experienced. I mean, you've experienced multiple different bikes, different riding styles, different. I mean, when you go through the spectrum, you find what you enjoy best.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I'm glad you brought that up because hopefully you don't stay with the bike you first bought.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's fun to try new bikes.
Definitely.
So quick recap. First bike I personally owned was my FC09 2016. And then I sold that, bought my 2015 Honda Fury. So completely different rider stance, triangle. A lot more calm, not just zip zapping around like on my sport bike.
Mm-hmm.
And then wanted more two-up riding. So it's exactly like you said. That's why I bought the Harley, was because it aligned more with what I wanted in the type of riding I was doing, a lot more longer distance, riding with my wife, wind protection.
Yeah.
That was one thing that we can kind of throw in on this is when you're new, you don't think about wind.
Oh, definitely.
So it's twofold. The weight of your motorcycle is going to help you in handling wind. And then just the generated wind of you moving through air. I didn't even think about wind protection because the FC09 had like a teeny windshield that did jack.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Honda Fury had nothing. And then the Harley has the fairing and the windshield that just completely block it. You have a lot less rider fatigue, wind fatigue from going long distance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a new rider that wants to take longer trips or have friends that you want to go with that take longer trips, that might be a big factor in what motorcycle you buy. Something that has that as an option or has it built in.
Yeah, definitely.
Because certain bikes don't have an aftermarket. That Honda Fury, if I wanted a windshield, it was a lot harder to find one than with the Harleys.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's 20 different companies that make windshields just for Harleys.
For sure.
And then all sorts of things when it comes to upgrading, accessorizing, making your bike fit you. If you want something to last, maybe look in to see what kind of aftermarket those bikes have.
Mm-hmm.
Because you feeling comfortable on the bike is number one in riding good. So, I don't know. That's something that I think is important to add.
Yeah, you definitely don't think about it. Like I purchased your Honda,
Right.
the Rebel, and I mean just riding that around.
The Magna.
Or the Magna, that's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, the Magna. Just riding that around, you're like, holy cow. I mean, you get going 60 miles per hour, you're feeling it just push on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hop onto the Harleys or, I mean, even the Indians, and it's just like completely different. You're not having to, hold yourself up against the wind. You're just,
Right.
I mean, you're just chilling.
Yeah, well, because it's built for it.
Yeah.
So that just goes back to what do you want out of riding? If you want just a bar hopper, zip around town, pick up stuff and go hang out with friends or quick city bombing of a bunch of sport bikes,
Mm-hmm.
then you know where you got to look. And with several of the commenters, if you're going to take the sport bike route, take it easy.
Oh, definitely.
I enjoyed riding my sport bike, and I think a lot of people think that they're going to love it, and then they get it, and then they realize, crap, this isn't what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes for any motorcycle. The most common thing I've ever heard of new motorcycle riders is that they buy the tiniest motorcycle, and then the second they have it, they realize that they've already outgrown it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think be honest with yourself. If you're worried about size, I'd say take a class, and then you can just skip that phase because you can get comfortable with the smaller bike and then move up to a mid-size, like a 500, 600.
Yeah.
So
Options. There's plenty of options.
yeah, there's European bikes, Japanese bikes, American, everything in between. So do your homework, do your research. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll be sure to look into the Discord and on Instagram, see what other questions people are having. But we're grateful for the time that you guys have spared to listen to this podcast. We're super excited about the things that are coming up. Just a sneak peek to some of the things we have here in Utah. There's a Harley-Davidson stunt team called the Hive Crew. And one of them reached out to me about getting on and talking about it. And they have an event coming up that we'll hopefully have them in before, and then we'll have them in after, is what it seems like we've been talking to them about. What else? I've had a Law Tigers representative reach out to me. I've had a couple different motorcycle school teachers reach out, and I'm really interested to hear what they have to say. So there's lots of topics that we're going to cover on this show. And the biggest thing we want is that we're covering things that you guys want to hear. So make sure that you get involved, share the podcast, share the Discord, share the Instagram, and let's build this community together.
I definitely think that's the biggest thing, is that we want you guys to be involved. We don't just want to do this to do this. We want, your guys' input and your guys' feedback and what you guys want to hear. Just like Jeremy's saying is, we're trying to build something here, and it seems like it's already started. We're just getting the ball rolling. But anything that you guys want to hear about, whatever it may be, send us a message. If you guys want to call in, feel free to call in. We'll play you guys on, the podcast. And we'd love to, talk to you and hear you. And, that's what this is all about, is just building the community.
Yeah. Biggest thing that could do to help us, if this is something you love or are interested in, is stay involved, keep posted for new episodes, and share what you want to see, because we can have a lot more fun. I think it's a lot more fun having these clips that I can just pop, listen, talk about it, and then those people feel like they're part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. That's what we're going to do. So we're grateful for those who did allow me to call yesterday and get these recordings done, and for their words of advice. And we hope that it's been helpful. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thank you.